welcome to another fabulous edition of Five Things Friday, UK edition. I'm Alex, the founder of the Retail Podcast, and I'm joined by my wonderful, for I'll diversify from fabulous, let fabulous breathe this week and go for wonderful co-host, Simone Ullman, the co-founder of Need It for Tonight. Simone, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. I guess I have to ask, the logistics business that you were thinking about, that's not called Need It for Tonight.
We call it Dave. Sorry for anybody out there that is called Dave. We needed to separate.
Is that a product name or is that like a code secret name?
Well, it started off as just like, okay, like how do we separate the two? You know, one's a marketplace app and then one's a rapid delivery plugin, checkout plugin. We were getting a bit confused and someone said, just call it Dave for now. And sadly, Dave has stuck. So
okay, well, so yeah, that was the other thing I was mentioning. The one other thing, Dave. Anyway, why don't we get straight into this and over to you for some interesting observation.
Yes, and we do have some. So I actually laughed when I read this. I read it on Vogue Business this week that Magnum, the ice cream, which I do love, is being, I want to say styled, as the it girl accessory this summer.
Yeah.
The ice cream is now apparently a fashion statement. I laughed as I was like, imagine saying this 5 years ago. But now apparently Magnums are everywhere. It's been spotted at Hailey Bieber's Road Beach Club in Mallorca and also at Charlie XCX's rave in Cannes. And it's so random.
I think that's a CMO or a marketing director saying, we're going to have fun with this, right? We're just going to go to all the...
But suddenly it's not just a snack. You know, they've turned it into this whole vibe. This is a really weird thing for me to say, but the aesthetic and how it's come across is... This is very weird, but I guess it's almost like affordable luxury. I know we're talking about an ice cream.
I know exactly what you mean.
I sound mad saying
indulgence.
that.
It's indulgence.
It is. And like, I think it's genius because Gen Z is kind of obsessed with little luxuries, but they're not going to spend $3,000 on a handbag because most Gen Z can't afford that. But they will spend £3.50 on an ice cream that looks really iconic in a photo. You know, they've turned it into this like lifestyle choice, and it really just taps into this like pleasure play design, but in a way that's really accessible to that age group. What I just think they've done really well is they've really leaned into that cultural storytelling. You know, they haven't just launched like a new flavor and put it on a shelf in Tesco. You know, they've really made ice cream. But I thought their collab with Rhode, which has obviously just been like the skincare brand, which everyone's obsessed with. I thought that was really clever. And it was a really weird
there it is. Okay.
crossover between like food, beauty and fashion. And you know what, for me, I just think that this is a really good reminder to retailers out there that your product doesn't have to change, but if you shift how people experience it and how they encounter it, you know, you can totally reframe the story. And, you know, that's exactly what they've done here. Now, I've never been on Magnum's Instagram. And obviously, like, after reading this article, I was like, I wonder what their Instagram's like. On their Instagram, you know, it's an ice cream. And as you can see here, they've got over 800,000 followers.
And then like at Primavera Sound, like all the cool festivals.
Really smart.
Yeah, it's super smart. And I think we always talk about how brands, and I'll give you an example. I was just recording the APAC edition this morning, and we were talking about how Chinese shoppers are not shopping at Gucci or Burberry anymore because it's just not relevant, right? Yeah. And here is maybe Gucci needs to come over to Magnum and say, hey guys, we're struggling a little bit with maintaining our relevance in our core market. Can you help us? Because I think this is what they've done beautifully.
It is, and it's memorable, and like
and they were at Cannes.
Yeah, Cannes as well.
I'm super curious to see. Okay, so they had an activation at Cannes. A Charlie XCS Magnum take their core product, but now put it in between a croissant, and all of a sudden it's and I'm sure that's pretty delicious. But it just becomes a totally new product.
Yeah,
right?
What we can learn from this. I just thought it was really memorable, very random, but
love it.
Very clever.
I love it. It's super cool. Thank you for that one. Right, my one. Let's go. So this one, I'm going to be a little bit over the place, but I've written it out, so I'm just going to go what I've written. Yeah. Basically, what I find in the UK, retailers experimenting with smaller, faster and more targeted stores. And I've got a couple of examples of each. For example, the Co-op, it has now a new 1,500 square foot on-the-go store in Solihull, which is sort of setting the tone. And if you think about a footprint with an expanded hot food zone, they have a plan to roll out 15 more sites within the month, over the next couple of months. And the mission is super, super clear for them. They want to capture that commuter spend and lunchtime shopping missions within last mile proximity. That makes so much sense. It'll be really interesting to see how that goes out. Big box retailers such as Primark following suit at the other end of the size chart and opening their second standalone Primark home store, roughly about 12,000 square feet inside the Trafford Centre in late August, where apparel players are ring fencing space for higher margin homeware, giving landlords who are desperate for getting a refresh of their estate fresh retail asset. And then the final bit about the mainstream part, you and I have discussed pop-ups. Pop-ups now inject an estimated 2.3 billion into the UK economy, with half of shoppers saying that they visited one in the past year. The biggest thing that retailers and brands and DTCs and CPGs need to understand that temporary doesn't mean experimental. It's just the proven format now for creating that buzz, testing the market and getting your products out there. So what's the key takeaway? And it's like 3 elements, but they're all in my mind underneath one element, which is the store format. The store format is changing for this new generation. And that's the biggest thing. And it's like one of the elements, one of the other things I'll talk about. Assortment discipline, expect tighter, higher velocity ranges. Retailers need to prep for smaller case packs and faster replenishment cycles, because out of stock is just horrible for everyone when they go in and it's not there. Fixture agility, modular shelving, plug and play technology, electric shelf labels that forever people have been saying we can't deploy this. Now that's coming back in at the checkout. A win for investors in retail tech, because they can see that now UK retail is now beginning to experiment with technologies that they've traditionally not been able to do. And then real estate. This is an area that's really needed a breath of fresh air to come in to the UK high street, because as we all know, it's been dying over the years. Boring formats, boring stores. And now we're seeing traditional names break down and go into new categories. So that's my next one, although I didn't change the slides because I can't talk and click at the same time. But I think, actually, this is my next one after we go to you. So why don't we go to you for cybersecurity?
Yeah, doesn't sound like a very interesting topic, does it, cybersecurity?
Let's
see how interesting I can make it. But what is interesting is Magnums. But one of the stories that really stood out to me this week, it was reading about an independent retailer called Sanderson. I think I was reading it on Draper's. They had to shut their website down due to a cyber attack. Obviously, we've seen it with Harrods, with Co-op, and of course the biggie being M&S. We all know that retail has become a huge target for cybercrime. But it's not just a tech issue, it's a trust issue. And I'm not a cybersecurity expert. I'm not about to sit here and talk through firewall protocols. But what I do think about a lot is consumer confidence, and I guess the emotional side of retail. You know, when customers know that the personal data, even if it's just your name or your address, have been accessed, it does really change how they feel about a brand. And the M&S breach alone cost either over or close to 300 million. And sadly, a lot of reputational damage as well. I, after reading this, started to do some digging. I was reading a survey that showed a percentage of consumers who would usually recommend M&S. That's dropped by 21% since the start of the year. And a third of their shoppers now say that they intend to shop elsewhere. I was quite shocked by that. I was shocked by those numbers. I was shocked at how high they were. You know, for me, that's a really big shift in perception, even for a brand like M&S.
Considering how we were talking about about them last week, right? In terms of how they're
And
doing well. They've got these new brands coming out and we're singing their praises. Now that we've lost all confidence in them.
Well, I mean, I haven't. I love M&S and I'm always going to be their biggest fan. So, but those numbers did shock me. I then started to, I mean, I do sound really boring now. But I started to do some, digging on just cybersecurity in general and just doing some research. And what I did find wild,
browsing the cybersecurity press.
I'm a sado. But it did say that only 11% of retailers have cyber insurance, even though like half have said they've been targeted in some kind of way.
Yeah.
Which to me, I think that to me is a sign that the retail industry, it's not fully facing the scale of the risk. I don't know. But, for me, the bigger question that I was just thinking about with all of this is, can brands, really bounce back from this? Will we forgive them? Apparently, yes, but just not as easily as before. So I think that just the reality is that trust in retail is really fragile. And while we're used to talking about things like price and the product and like the customer experience, and, that are usually like the big topics, I think we'll see that data protection and cyber transparency, that's going to really become a new part of this brand trust equation, which I think is really interesting. So that was my thoughts.
Right. I'm going to have to step up on how fast I am talking to get through the next two, I think, or three, depending on how we look at it. So omnichannel fulfillment, a John Lewis partnership has paired up with UberEats in Leeds and in Stratford for rapid delivery. Over 150 curated SKUs, things like candles, cushions, gifting items, all within half an hour. Get on to Dave and let Dave deliver that for you. If you're listening from, any of those. Because, they were traditionally, and I so understand this, because you're in that sort of Amazon catalog, and you just sort of blend into the background. I think retailers are tired as are consumers, so they want new environments to shop. Okay. And then the bit about B&Q that I've had up here for about 10 minutes is marketplaces for B&Q. They're now piloting next day click and collect for third-party marketplace, scaling to 300 stores, basically being able to have micro fulfillment hubs, even if they don't stock the product that they're selling from their marketplace. And my final one, I came across this app, and I'm always looking for places to go that have got art, fashion, music. I'll let it play and you can hear it.
Some cool events to go to in the next month across music, art and fashion. Here's a few that I would recommend. First one is called Genesis, and they basically host these like MMA style fights and play music in the background, kind of like a rave. Last one looked insane. The next one, Gigs and Friends, and that is basically rapper Gigs bringing along some of his music friends and performing at Somerset House in central London. That's a bit more on the expensive side, but I think that'll be definitely worth it. Happening this Saturday is Victory Lap and Air Jordan. So they're doing like a basketball style event. It's free to go. You just have to RSVP, and that's in West London. Final one happening on Thursday is Clash Magazine hosting a free party.
So rather than listen to him, I want to actually show you the app. Here we go. So you've got all of the different events going in. The reason I'm showing you this is the ability for D2C and brands such as Nike to collaborate in this new world of culture. And again, you and I have spoken about how culture is so important. And here is a young guy who's created his own app to sort of address that for budding. Oh, look, an association with Magnum. See, this is why I think like when it's like when you think, I don't know, you think about red cars and all of a sudden you see 10 cars, that everything we see is going to have Magnum on there. But there's like, there's fashion shows, there's music shows, and then there's cross collaboration, there's Nike. Go and explore for yourself. But another example of how, if you want to bring, as Magnum have done, and influence people, you need to be thinking about culture, and you need to be thinking about community, and you need to be thinking about how you become an active participant in that, rather than just an observer or commentator. And I think that's the biggest thing that I see. So many retailers are just commentators, not active participants. And again, Magnum have done a phenomenal job. With that, Simone, thank you so much. I look forward to speaking to you next week.
Wonderful. Thanks, Alex. Catch you next week.